everyone, and thank you very much for attending our talk. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm very happy to be sharing this project with you anyway. My name is Marcela Harrisberger, and I'm an English teacher and a life skills teacher at a secondary school in Bavaria, Germany, where I teach students from year 5 to year 10. Today, I'd like to share a classroom project that emerged from a recent curricular change in Bavarian schools, but which I believe speaks to a much wider global challenge we are all facing as language teachers. In recent years, life skills has been formally introduced into the school timetable in Bavaria. It is not a single topic and is not a short program. It is a broad educational framework that includes areas such as dealing with emotions, communication and empathy, motivation and goal setting, self-organization, self-care, self-worth, values, and future orientation. The underlying idea is very clear. Schools are not only responsible for academic knowledge, but also for helping students become emotionally, socially, and ethically capable human beings. This has become even more urgent in the age of artificial intelligence. In a world shaped by AI, information is instantly available. Text, translations, and summaries can be generated in seconds. Performance is constantly measured and compared, and algorithms increasingly influence how young people see themselves. What AI cannot replace are human capacities such as empathy, ethical judgment, self-reflection, responsibility for one's actions, and a stable sense of self-worth. If education focuses only on output and correctness, we risk raising students who can produce results but struggle to cope, to connect, or to act ethically. This is exactly where life skills education becomes essential. As English teachers, this puts us in a very interesting position. On the one hand, AI can often produce better English than our students. On the other hand, language classrooms are one of the few spaces where students regularly talk about thoughts, feelings, relationships, and identity. So the key question for me was this: how can English lessons actively contribute to the life skills education instead of competing with AI or correctness and performance? Life skills covers many topics. Growth mindset's just one of them. And I chose to share growth mindset today for one main reason. It resonates very strongly with teenagers. For them, growth mindset connects directly to fear of making mistakes, pressure to perform, comparison with others, grades, exams, and evaluation, and the feeling of not being good enough. It speaks to their everyday school reality, and that makes it a powerful example topic. Not the whole curriculum, but a clear illustration of how life skills content can be addressed in English lessons. The value of this project lies in the content of life skills itself. Growth mindset, self-worth, emotional awareness, and communication are not accessories to language teaching. They are essential learning goals in their own right, especially in times of rapid technological change. What Clio allows us to do is bring this content into the English classroom in a way that is accessible, emotionally safe, and linguistically supported. So Clio is not the purpose, it is the pedagogical bridge. In this project, life skills is the content and English is the tool. Human experience comes first. Language is carefully scaffolded. Key vocabulary is pre-taught, sentence starters and language chunks are provided. Visuals, repetition, and modeling are used, and the mother tongue is allowed strategically for thinking and emotional safety. Accuracy is not a priority. Meaning, reflection, and participation are. This allows students to use English to think about themselves, to talk about emotions, and to practice ethical communication, things AI cannot do for them. The unit uses short, relatable narratives, for example, a student who believes she is bad at learning, a student who pretends to be okay because he feels insecure, and another one who compares her whole life to social media highlights. These stories are intentionally ordinary, and they create distance. Students reflect with the characters, not about themselves, and no one is forced to share personal experiences. At the same time, they open space for empathy, ethical reflection, and perspective taking. Instead of grammar rules, students work with language chunks such as I can't do this yet, mistakes help me learn, I don't understand, can you help me please? My values do not depend on likes. These are not just useful sentences, these are ethical statements. They reduce pressure, support responsibility, and encourage empathy and self-respect. AI can generate language, but it cannot decide which words are helpful in a human situation. Role plays allow students to express insecurity, practice supportive responses, and experience how language can calm or escalate situations. But reflection is always the key step. Which sentence helped? Why did it help? And what could I say in real life? This is where students practice ethical communication, empathy, and responsibility for their words. Before I move on, let me explain how the lessons are structured. So every lesson follows the same predictable structure, and this is intentional. For students learning in a second language, predictability creates emotional safety and reduces anxiety. So first, we introduce key vocabulary and concepts, only what they really need to know. Then we work with a short story or situation, something relatable and real. And finally, students complete guided tasks and reflection. Everything is structured, supported, and connected to real life. And this consistent structure helps students focus on meaning, not fear, and makes it possible to work with life skills content through English. Working with this material, I observed that students engage more deeply, weaker learners participate more confidently, mistakes lose their threatening power, and reflection becomes more honest. English lessons become spaces where students learn. I don't have to be perfect. I can ask for help. I'm more than a result. In an AI-driven world, these insights are foundational, not optional. Growth mindset is only one example of how life skills topics can be integrated into English lessons. The same approach can be used for communication and conflict resolution, emotional regulation, self-organization and self-care, ethical decision-making, and future orientation and employability. What matters is not the topic itself, but the human focus behind it. To make this as practical as possible, I am sharing the materials I use with my 8th grade classes. This includes the student booklet and the teacher's manual. You can download both via the link provided with this talk. And please feel free to adapt the materials, translate them, or use them as inspiration for your own context. I'll end with this thought. In the age of AI, the most important thing we can teach through English is not perfect language, but conscious, compassionate, and ethical human communication. Growth mindset is just one way. If you have questions, ideas, or would like to exchange experiences, you are very welcome to contact me by email. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you find the material useful and that you enjoy working with life skills topics. Bye!